Good evening, I'm Katie Wilson and you're watching A News. Here are the top stories for tonight. Putin declares a 3-day ceasefire in Ukraine starting May the 8th. Ukraine is ready to support a lasting full ceasefire. North Korea confirms for the first time that it has sent troops to fight for Russia in the war with Ukraine. Large parts of Spain and Portugal are hit by power outages, knocking out subway networks, phone lines and traffic lights. President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, declared a unilateral 3-day ceasefire in May. In response, Ukraine's foreign minister expressed readiness for a full and lasting peace, calling on Russia to halt attacks immediately.
Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin.
The Kremlin declared a new unilateral ceasefire. Russian President Vladimir Putin, speaking at a meeting of the Council of Legislators in St. Petersburg, said that the 72-hour truce is set to begin at the start of 8th May and run until the end of 10th May. This date marks the 80th anniversary of the Soviet Union's victory alongside its allies in World War II. It follows an earlier, short-lived Easter ceasefire, which both sides accused each other of repeatedly violating. Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha responded, saying Ukraine is ready to support a lasting, durable and full ceasefire. However, he stressed that if Russia truly wants peace, it should immediately halt its ongoing attacks. Ukrainian Foreign Ministry spokesman Georgy Tykhy stated that if Russia truly seeks peace, it should cease fire immediately.
Why wait until May 8th? If the fire can be ceased now, and since any date for 30 days, so it is a real ceasefire, not just one for a parade. And Ukraine is ready to support a lasting, durable and full ceasefire. Of course, Ukraine's position is consistent, and we think that Moscow needs to be asked why they do not reciprocate the Ukrainian proposal, the Ukrainian acceptance of a full ceasefire, because if they accepted it, it could have already started, and we would have silence and, of course, some confidence-building measures, as Minister Sybiha repeats clearly many times, and this would pave the way to a real long-term settlement.
US President Donald Trump wants to see a permanent ceasefire to ending Russia's war in Ukraine. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said,
He is increasingly frustrated with leaders of both countries. He wants to see a permanent ceasefire. I understand Vladimir Putin this morning offered a temporary ceasefire. The president has made it clear he wants to see a permanent ceasefire, first to stop the killing, stop the bloodshed. And while he remains optimistic he can strike a deal, he's also being realistic as well.
As of now, there are no signs of formal negotiations linked to the newly announced ceasefire, and the situation along the front lines remains tense.
In a major escalation of its support for Russia, North Korea has admitted for the first time that it deployed troops to fight in the Ukraine war, part of a growing military alliance sealed by a treaty between Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin.
North Korea has officially confirmed it sent troops to fight alongside Russia in the Ukraine war, marking the first public acknowledgement of its direct military involvement. According to state media, leader Kim Jong-un approved the deployment under a strategic partnership treaty signed with Russian President Vladimir Putin last year.
On the basis of the analysis and judgment that the prevailing situation was conform to the invocation of Article 4 of the Treaty on Comprehensive Strategic Partnership concluded between the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and the Russian Federation, Comrade Kim Jong-un decided on our armed forces' participation in the war and informed the Russian side.
North Korea claimed its forces played a key role in helping Russia regain control of the Kursk region. According to Ukrainian officials, an estimated 14,000 North Korean troops were sent, including 3,000 reinforcements. Lacking armored vehicles and drone warfare experience, they took heavy casualties but adapted quickly. Earlier, Russia confirmed North Korean troops fought in the region, highlighting growing military ties between the two nations.
In New Jersey, President Donald Trump called on Russia to halt its attacks on Ukraine. After a key meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the Vatican, Trump also shared his views on US support for Ukraine and his disappointment with Russia's actions.
President Donald Trump urged Russia to stop its attacks in Ukraine, while his top diplomat said the United States might walk away from peace efforts if it does not see progress. Speaking to reporters in New Jersey, Trump said he was disappointed that Russia has continued to attack Ukraine and said his one-on-one meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the Vatican on Saturday had gone well.
He needs more weapons, but he's been saying that for 3 years, He needs more weapons, and we're going to see what happens. I want to see what happens with respect to Russia, because Russia has been surprised and disappointed, very disappointed that they did the bombing of those places after discussions.
Trump and Zelensky, who were in Rome for the funeral of Pope Francis, met in a Vatican basilica on Saturday to try to revive faltering efforts to end the war in Ukraine. The meeting was the first between the two leaders since an angry encounter in the White House Oval Office in February, and comes at a critical time in negotiations aimed at bringing an end to the conflict. Answering to the questions of reporters, he mentioned about his relationship with President Zelensky after that meeting.
It was never bad. We had a little dispute because I disagreed with something he said, and the cameras were rolling, and that was okay with me. But we had a dispute. But look, he's in a tough situation, a very tough situation. He's been fighting a much bigger force, much bigger. And that force has not been very distinguished, It's been a lot tougher than they thought, but it helped them when we gave them $350 billion worth of weapons or cash.
The US president also addressed the future of Crimea.
Is Zelensky ready to give up Crimea, do you think, Mr. President? Oh, I think so, yeah. Look, Crimea was 12 years ago. That was President Obama. They gave it up without a shot being fired. So don't talk to me about Crimea. Talk to Obama and Biden about Crimea. I was just wondering what Zelensky thought. And remember, this is Biden's war. This isn't Trump's war. I came in to try and solve a problem. And the problem is so many people are being killed.
Trump rebuked Russian President Vladimir Putin after that meeting, saying on social media that there is no reason for Russia to shoot missiles into civilian areas.
At least 68 people were killed and dozens more injured in a US airstrike on a migrant detention centre in Yemen's Sada region, according to Houthi-affiliated media. The facility, reportedly housing African migrants, was among several locations hit in and around the capital Sana'a, with additional casualties reported. The US military has not yet commented on the incident. The Sana'a facility held migrants from countries like Ethiopia, who often travel through Yemen in hopes of reaching Saudi Arabia for work. UN Chief Guterres condemned the strikes, urging all parties to protect civilians under international law. Joining me now to discuss the recent talks between the US and Iran is Diogo Castro Silva, a political analyst from Sao Paulo in Brazil. Thanks for being with us. Now, for a bit of context, Saturday's discussions raised hopes that we might see another high-level meeting between the US and Iran in the coming days. Talks are expected to continue with a meeting scheduled for May the 3rd. So, in your opinion, how much is the progress in these negotiations influenced by the US putting military pressure on Iran's proxy, the Houthis?
Well, I don't think, I don't think the part of the Houthis is really the relevant piece that is moving, although it might play a role. I think there are a number of factors happening. One, on the side of the US, Donald Trump seems very keen to have an agreement in any front he can have to showcase his diplomatic skills. So he tried Gaza at first, then Ukraine, now Iran, people are talking about North Korea. So there is an attempt to do something for personal reasons. The second aspect is that on the part of Iran, I don't think what moved was the Houthis, but what happened with Israel in terms of the quasi-destruction of the Hezbollah, what happened in Gaza. So Iran felt very cornered, and I think looked at also at the opportunity to engage the Trump administration in some talks with the only chip that they have, as they don't have the proxies at the same level anymore. So I think it was a combination of factors that that explain where are we now.
Now, do you think there's a likelihood that Iran would obtain nuclear weapons before these negotiations conclude? And if that was to happen, how would that change the picture?
Well, I think Iran is playing a game of being on the threshold of being a declared nuclear power rather than going full on to do so. And the reason is the regime is afraid of the consequences of declaring to be a full nuclear power. So they use that as, they use the card of being on a threshold. So they are, for example, at enrichment level 60% and not 90%, which is a small step in terms of the engineering needed, but they don't cross the line because they are afraid of consequences, namely military conflict that can put in danger the regime itself. So it's a little bit a game of smoke and mirrors, or I would say a chicken game, thus to avoid being declared fully nuclear.
Really great to have your insights there. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Tensions between India and Pakistan are rising after an attack in Kashmir killed 26 people. The two sides have been exchanging gunfire along their de facto border. India blames Pakistan for backing the attackers, a charge Islamabad has denied. Ishan Garg tells us more from New Delhi.
In a recent sign of escalating tensions, India has banned 16 Pakistani YouTube channels. It includes some news outlets as well. New Delhi says they are propagating hatred and misinformation against India. This comes just days after India suspended a key water sharing agreement with Pakistan. Officials here say that they will block crucial river water supply that could strain water and food security for a majority of Pakistan's population. Islamabad has called it an act of war and has accused New Delhi of destabilizing the region. Amid rising tensions, the Indian Navy has been holding military drills off the coast of India's western coast. They are testing anti-ship and anti-surface cruise missiles to reiterate, officials say, the Navy's combat preparedness. Now, defense experts say that India could carry out targeted military strikes on Pakistani territory. This comes after Prime Minister Narendra Modi said India will hunt down the terrorists to the end of the earth in a rare English language speech last week. While the restive region of Kashmir is no stranger to violence, the attack on civilians this time has led to an outpouring of grief and anger. Locals, businesses and civil society groups have been organizing protests demanding justice for the 26 people killed in the terrorist attack. The international community is weighing in as well. Washington is urging both India and Pakistan to reach what it calls a responsible solution, while countries such as France, Germany, along with the European Union, have expressed solidarity with New Delhi. China says it condemns the Pahalgam attack and has added that Beijing supports Islamabad in safeguarding its sovereignty and security interests. An escalation of tensions, analysts warn, could plunge Asia into a crisis at a time when the region is still dealing from the fallout of the Israel-Hamas war and Russia's attack on Ukraine. Ishan Garg for A News in New Delhi.
Let's stick with those rising tensions between India and Pakistan. New Delhi has accused Islamabad of orchestrating a terror attack in Kashmir, which they deny. In response, Pakistan has deployed fighter jets across its airspace. The international community is urging both countries to show restraint, with growing concerns about the possibility of a wider conflict. Hira Mustafa tells us more from Islamabad.
Cross-border fire between Islamabad and New Delhi has entered its fourth consecutive day along the de facto border in the disputed Kashmir region, escalating tensions between the two nuclear-armed neighbors. Amid rising hostilities, Pakistan's top leadership has established an operational center to oversee national security and prepare for any potential cross-border strikes by India. Security forces across the country remain on high alert, with the Pakistan Air Force actively patrolling the skies and troops reinforcing positions along the Indian border. The flare-up follows India's accusations that Pakistan was involved in a recent terror attack in Indian-administered Kashmir, claims Islamabad denies, calling instead for an independent investigation into the incident. In the wake of these allegations, India suspended the Indus Water Treaty, a crucial water-sharing agreement between the two countries. The move angered Islamabad, which warned that any Indian attempt to change the flow of the Indus River would be viewed as an act of war. In retaliation, Islamabad has threatened to revoke the Simla Agreement, which holds the de facto border in the disputed region of Kashmir. Pakistan's foreign minister has confirmed that Islamabad is preparing legal documents to approach the World Bank, guarantor of the Indus Water Treaty, over India's suspension of the agreement. Rising tensions have drawn calls for restraint from China, the US, and the UK, amid fears that escalation could lead to full-scale war and destabilize the South Asian region. Hira Mustafa for A News, Islamabad.
A rare and massive power outage swept across Spain and Portugal on Monday, paralysing transport and communications for millions. Authorities are racing to restore electricity, but uncertainty remains as investigations continue.
Spanish power distributor Red Eléctrica says restoring supply after the unprecedented outage could take 6 to 10 hours. The cause remains unclear, though both Spanish and Portuguese officials ruled out a cyber attack. The blackout shut down metro networks, traffic lights, phone lines, and ATMs across major cities, including Madrid and Lisbon. Spain's parliament, public broadcaster RTVE, and the Madrid Open tennis tournament were also affected.
I honestly don't know when I'll be able to get home. I have to work tomorrow.
Authorities believe the disruption likely originated within Spain's electricity distribution network. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez visited Red Eléctrica to oversee recovery efforts, while Portugal's cabinet held an emergency meeting.
I'm struggling, trying so hard to get home, but I don't know how. I have my 2 kids alone at home. It's just terrible.
Portugal's Prime Minister Luís Montenegro confirmed there was no indication of a cyber attack and said the issue did not originate in Portugal. He expects full power restoration in Portugal in the coming hours after visiting the national grid operator REN. Meanwhile, Spanish operator Red Eléctrica said extreme variations in Spain's temperature may have triggered the collapse.
I'm trying to get my husband in here too, just so we can somehow get back home. But I haven't been able to get to work. I haven't been able to do anything. It's just, this is the reality we're facing.
Parts of France also faced temporary disruptions. French grid operator RTE said it helped supply Spain's network, restoring 700 megawatts of power, and promised more support as stability returns. Hospitals, courts, and transport services across Portugal switched to backup generators, while police were deployed to manage traffic manually.
We're about to miss our flight, and I don't even know where we're going to spend the night. I have nothing else to say.
The organisers of the Madrid Open later announced the cancellation of both the day and night sessions to guarantee public safety. By late afternoon, Spain reported partial recovery across the north and south of the peninsula. Still, the outage marked one of the worst ever to hit the Iberian Peninsula, home to more than 50 million people.
The College of Cardinals will gather on May the 7th to begin the conclave to elect the next Pope, allowing a 2-day delay for members to agree on a candidate before being locked in the Sistine Chapel.
The College of Cardinals will convene on May 7th to elect the next Pope, following the death of Pope Francis on April 21st. The date was set after the 5th General Congregation, and the Sistine Chapel will be closed to visitors during the conclave. Of the 135 cardinal electors, 108 were appointed by Francis during his 12-year papacy, including 20 named just last December. Many have never met, adding to the vote's unpredictability. The group is more geographically diverse than ever, with fewer Europeans and increased representation from Asia, Latin America and Africa, reflecting Francis's efforts to make the Church more global and inclusive. A 2-day delay before voting begins allows time to build consensus. Once inside the conclave, cardinals vote in secret until a candidate secures a 2/3 majority. The process may take several days or weeks and, if needed, can pause for more discussion. Once elected, the new pope will be announced publicly. Potential successors include Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the Vatican's Secretary of State, and Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle of the Philippines. Other candidates include progressives like Jean-Claude Hollerich and Michael Czerny, and conservatives like Raymond Burke and Gerhard Müller, who are reportedly lobbying for a return to traditional doctrine. Only cardinals under 80 may vote, but not all will attend. One Spanish cardinal cited health issues. Uncertainty also surrounds Cardinal Angelo Becciu, convicted of financial crimes in 2023, and whether he'll be allowed to participate. Despite Francis's influence on the college, experts emphasise that conclaves are often unpredictable, and the next pope could still be a surprise. Pope Francis's funeral drew over 250,000 mourners, including 249 international delegations. The multilingual ceremony reflected the Church's global reach. In a break from tradition, Francis was buried privately at Santa Maria Maggiore, honouring his devotion to the Marian icon Salus Populi Romani.
A Vancouver neighbourhood is in mourning as tributes grow at the site of a deadly vehicle attack which claimed 11 lives during a Filipino festival.
Grieving residents gathered on Sunday to lay flowers and pay tribute at a growing memorial near the scene of a deadly vehicle attack during a Filipino community festival in Vancouver. The memorial, marked by floral tributes, handwritten messages, and emotional embraces, formed near the site where at least 11 people were killed and dozens more injured after a man drove an SUV into a crowd on Saturday evening. People stood in silence, some visibly emotional, while others added bouquets and personal tokens, including a plush toy and a Philippine flag wrapped around white carnations. Signs expressing solidarity and love were placed at the site as the community struggled to process the tragedy. Police officers continued to canvass the neighbourhood, going door to door in search of eyewitnesses. A heavy security presence remained near the cordoned-off area along Fraser Street, where the incident took place during a local celebration honouring Philippine national hero Lapu-Lapu. Authorities arrested a 30-year-old Vancouver man at the scene and confirmed he had a history of mental health issues. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney has visited Vancouver, meeting with local officials and community members to offer his condolences and support.
Iran has declared Monday a national day of mourning to mark the casualties of the fire on Saturday, which triggered a large blast on a port in the southern city of Bandar Abbas. Our correspondent Taraj Shiralilu brings us the latest update from Tehran.
Iran declared Monday a national day of mourning to mark the casualties of the fire accident, which triggered a massive blast on Shahid Raja'i port in the southern city of Bandar Abbas on Saturday. According to official figures, the tragic explosion at the port city has already claimed 40 lives and left about 1,000 people injured. Port operation is reportedly back to normal, and the majority of the wounded people were discharged after receiving outpatient treatment. President Masoud Pezeshkian, who is on a state visit to Baku, Republic of Azerbaijan today, flew to Bandar Abbas on Sunday to inspect the rescue efforts and also to chair the Special Crisis Committee meeting. Port authorities said the fire was contained on Sunday afternoon. An investigation has started to probe the cause of the fire in Iran's biggest container hub. Minister of Interior Eskandar Momeni, who is appointed by President Pezeshkian to oversee the relief operation, said that a special committee is assigned and is collecting evidence related to the explosion. An initial report by customs officials indicated that a depot of hazardous chemicals in the port's regular storage area caused the massive fire and the subsequent explosion. According to First Vice President Mohammad Reza Aref, the details of the incident would be revealed as soon as they are confirmed. Meanwhile, leaders from neighboring countries, including President Ilham Aliyev of the Republic of Azerbaijan, as well as international organizations, have poured in support messages and also expressing condolences to their Iranian counterparts. Russia dispatched today 3 firefighting aircraft, and Saudi Arabia has said it was ready to send humanitarian and technical support to the inflicted zone. Turad Shiralilu, reporting for A News TV, Tehran.
Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian is visiting Azerbaijan at the invitation of Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev. The two held meetings in various formats, and following the talks, several documents were exchanged. Aliyev and Pezeshkian announced their goal is to raise Azerbaijani-Iranian relations to a high level.
Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian was greeted by Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev in the main fixture of his visit to Azerbaijan. The honor guard greeted the Iranian president in front of the Zugulba residence, some 40 kilometers from Baku. With the formal welcoming ceremony underway, state anthems were played. The two presidents headed inside to hold their meetings, one-on-one, then in a limited, and finally a broader format. Following the talks, documents were signed and exchanged by the two presidents and ministers of the governments. One of the main topics of today's meeting was the International North-South Transport Corridor, a route connecting the Black Sea with the Persian Gulf.
This project will bring great benefits to all countries participating in this project. Azerbaijan has implemented all the necessary infrastructure projects for the operation of this transport corridor on its territory. Currently, we are simply expanding our transport capabilities and infrastructure, taking into account the increasing loads, be it seaports, railways, or road transport. We have launched large investment projects in all these directions to receive and transmit the expected large volumes of cargo.
At the press statements, Aliyev and Pezeshkian announced their goal is to raise Azerbaijani-Iranian interstate relations to a high level.
Borderlines are just separating houses. Neighbors keep traveling, visiting each other. In this part of the world, in this region, we share a lot of commonalities in regard to culture, religion, and various other aspects. We can use the connections and our regional markets. We believe we can deepen and promote our relationship, as my dear brother, President Ilham Aliyev, noted and instructed for the launch of strategic plan. And I believe we can promote and deepen our relationship with such a strategic plan.
Iranian president also reiterated Tehran's support for Azerbaijan's sovereignty, while the Azerbaijani president said that Baku and Tehran traditionally support each other within different international organizations.
The president of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, has hailed the strong ties between Iran and Azerbaijan, describing the relationship as one without any sense of foreignness. Speaking during an interview with Azerbaijani state television, President Pezeshkian emphasized the importance of expanding bilateral cooperation across cultural, economic and infrastructure sectors. He also expressed hope for the peaceful resolution of regional disputes, including the Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict. Here's more from his interview.
There's no sense of foreignness between Azerbaijan and Iran, President of Iran Masoud Pezeshkian said in an interview with Azerbaijani television. President Pezeshkian has emphasized deepening bilateral relations with Azerbaijan, citing shared cultural bonds and economic potential. The head of state noted that the areas of cooperation between Iran and Azerbaijan are very broad. Iranian president also expressed hope that the disagreements between Armenia and Azerbaijan would be resolved within the framework of international law.
The first step for any matter is for everyone to be content with their own limits and boundaries, and not to covet the land or territory of another. Conflicts arise when one party desires to take possession of another's land or borders. We, like other nations, have accepted respect for the rights, sovereignty and territorial integrity of all countries within the framework of international law. We hope that the disputes between Azerbaijan and Armenia will be resolved peacefully. We have always defended Azerbaijan's rights, and naturally we also respect Armenia's rights within its internationally recognized borders.
Asked how Iran views the resolution of the issue of unblocking of connections, particularly the passage from Azerbaijan proper to its Nakhchivan exclave through Armenia, the Iranian president said that the unblocking of connections in the region must take place in adherence to the territorial integrity of the countries.
At present, Iran is facilitating a route for our Azerbaijani brothers and sisters. We are developing road and rail links on our territory to enable direct access to Nakhchivan. This project is progressing rapidly, and agreements have been made. There will be no obstacles in connecting Azerbaijan proper with Nakhchivan via Iranian territory. We consider Iran to be a second home for Azerbaijanis, and we will warmly welcome them whenever they enter our land.
In the interview, President Pezeshkian also added that the Astara-Astara and Astara-Rasht railway projects could strengthen trade relations between Iran and Azerbaijan.
Transport routes are the arteries of life. Just as veins and arteries signify life in the human body, roads, railways and highways are vital for growth and development. We are currently focusing on connecting Astara to Rasht and further developing the railway network. This will strengthen commercial ties between Iran and Azerbaijan. Additionally, Azerbaijan can serve as a transit corridor for Russia through Iran to the Persian Gulf. Likewise, Iran can serve as a transit route for Azerbaijan's goods to be exported worldwide via the Gulf. We are working rapidly on our side to complete these routes, and we look forward to finalizing agreements with our dear brother, the President of Azerbaijan, to accelerate internal and north-south transport links.
Pezeshkian also emphasized the deep-rooted ties between the two countries.
The Global South NGO platform was established in Baku with representatives from over 100 countries, aiming to address global challenges. Azerbaijan's leadership was emphasised, and the two-day event focused on cooperation and future plans.
On April 28th, the first ever Global South NGO Forum, themed as Solidarity in Action, Empowering Global South NGOs for a New and Fair World, kicked off in Baku. In a special address to participants by the Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev, highlighted the country's efforts to promote dialogue and understanding between the Global South and North, leading to the Baku breakthrough at COP29. At the very end of the opening ceremony, the Global South NGO platform was declared and announced. Ramil Iskandari, the chairman of the board of National NGO Forum, highlighted its essential role as a global equality movement influenced by Azerbaijan's COP29 legacy. UN Resident Coordinator Vladanka Andreeva noted the NGO coalition's impact on climate negotiations and the Baku Forum's potential to enhance cooperation on Global South challenges.
As United Nations, we are working closely with civil society and with all other stakeholders to ensure that we achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. And that's why it's critically important that the voices of civil society are heard, that they have space to work together with different partners, that they have sit at the table, and this forum will definitely deliver on that.
Kuala Lumpur Mayor Maimouna Mohd Sharif praised Azerbaijan's role in amplifying the voices of global South countries, noting its leadership in promoting dialogue at the Non-Aligned Movement and COP29. Speakers emphasized global civil society's crucial role in addressing global issues, with this event focusing on poverty, climate change, the digital divide, and trade inequality. Similar sentiments have been conveyed by others speaking at the event.
Global South NGO platform was initiated by over 1,000 NGOs during this COP29, and I think when many people and many NGOs, like more than 1,000 NGOs, they are committed and they want to establish this this kind of platform, it means there is a need for this kind of platform. As I said, this can be a very serious platform, very serious network that can unite all the problems that the global South countries are facing and bring it to a global agenda. This is very much important.
At the event, Asia Abdel Muttaleb Yaki, a member of the Jordanian Senate, stressed the importance of fully integrating persons with disabilities into society. She highlighted the need for diverse communication methods and their involvement in social projects.
Good things in this summit bring from all the countries, more than 100 and something countries from the world, and this is all of them say one word, that all the NGOs together should have the theme, the action, the fund, everything, and to support from the governments in all of the world, which is something good for the people who take this service from these NGOs.
Gulbara Sultanova, chairperson of Kazakhstan's Committee for Civil Society Affairs, highlighted the key role of NGOs in tackling issues like social injustice, digital inequality, and climate change. She also mentioned the rapid development of civil society in Kazakhstan, with over 20,000 active NGOs.
Today, such an event is taking place, which united the civil sector of many countries. It's almost 80%. Today, more than 100 countries are attending this very important event. Today, the civil sector declares with one voice that it is ready to work to solve the problems that exist in the world, because any country solving problems only within the country, it cannot be sure that the country will develop. It is important to understand global processes, and now there are many problems, and we see the turbulence of the world, so it's very important, and the civil sector said it was ready to work. And most importantly, the Azerbaijani initiative has found such support.
Vuk Chin Chang, a UN representative, stated that the Global South NGO platform will boost southern countries' international representation and highlighted the need for broader participation in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals.
It is a great initiative to link and connect all together the NGOs from Global South. We need more voices from Global South, especially from NGOs, to tackle all the problems we are facing now in the world. So in that sense, I'd like to congratulate Azerbaijani government and people to host this event.
The two-day conference gathered NGO and civil society representatives from 116 countries.
And also with the agreement of NGOs from 116 countries, the leadership of this platform was entrusted to Azerbaijan. Mr. Ramin Iskandarli, who is actually the chairman of the board of Azerbaijan, the NGO Forum, was appointed, was entrusted with the task of being acting Secretary General.
Urging cooperation to tackle the social, economic and climate challenges of Global South countries. The event is still underway, with several key panel discussions are scheduled to take place during the second day of the forum.
Georgian officials continue their diplomatic outreach in the South Caucasus, with a high-level visit to Armenia led by Georgian President Mikhail Kavalashvili. During the trip, key talks are planned with Armenia's leadership, including the Prime Minister and the President. The visit comes as Georgia steps up efforts to position itself as a neutral platform for dialogue between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Our Tbilisi correspondent Nini Nikolaishvili has more.
Mikhail Kavalashvili is leading a Georgian delegation on an official visit to Armenia today. He will be welcomed in Yerevan by Armenia's Vice Prime Minister, with meetings scheduled later with the President Vakhagan Khachaturian and Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan. The visit comes at a crucial time as Georgia steps up efforts to position itself as a platform for discussions between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Tbilisi's approach was demonstrated at Antalya Diplomatic Forum and during the trilateral meeting hosted in the Georgia's capital just recently. Today's meetings are expected to focus not only on bilateral relations, but also on the broader regional agenda. Georgia, emphasizing its neutrality and close ties with both Armenia and Azerbaijan, is seeking to build trust and offer the platform for dialogue. Following the President of Georgia's earlier visit to Baku, the trip to Yerevan is a clear message. Tbilisi is aiming for a bigger role as a reliable partner in the South Caucasus, promoting cooperation, peace and regional stability. It's Nini Nikolaishvili reporting from Tbilisi, News.
Afghanistan is seeing fresh signs of international interest in its investment opportunities as both Indian and Russian private sector investors signal their eagerness to engage. Tamim Bahis has more from Kabul.
Big powers set their sights on Afghanistan, identifying investment opportunities and perspectives for economic cooperation. During a high-level meeting in Kabul, the acting foreign minister of Afghanistan told officials from India's Ministry of External Affairs that conditions in Afghanistan are now favorable for investment. He invited Indian businesses to take part in Afghanistan's rebuilding efforts. Discussions also focused on boosting trade and transit ties and on easing visa procedures for Afghan patients, students and business people. Indian officials in turn expressed interest in investing in new projects and completing earlier ones, reaffirming India's commitment to its relationship with Afghanistan. Meanwhile, in the north of the country, private sector investors from Russia visited Balkh province, where they announced plans to invest $500 million to establish a major oil extraction plant in partnership with a local Afghan company. Provincial officials pledged a full cooperation to support the project. These developments highlight growing confidence in Afghanistan's investment landscape as the country works to strengthen its economy and build new international partnerships. This is Tamim Bahis in Kabul for A News.
That's all we have for now. Thank you for watching and stay tuned to A News.